Reddit, what's the craziest thing that happened in a party during your high school college years? I got pissed drunk and wandered off to McDonald's, which was like a mile off campus. I don't remember even leaving, but I got a call a week later from the McDonald's saying I didn't get the job because I didn't go to the interview. I guess in my drunken state I got there and realized I had no money, so I must have sat there and applied for a job. Didn't remember a thing. Edit. They called to ask if I wanted to reschedule, but my reaction was, what the fuck are you talking about? So they kindly informed me that they didn't need my assistance. The dude must have thought I was retarded. I should have explained that better. Dean College, Franklin, MA. Got busted by a police helicopter while drinking at the lake. Spotlighted us and yelled at us over a bullhorn to stay still while 6 officers complete with 2 K9 units came down to where we were, gathered everybody up, walked us to where we parked our cars, searched us, cited one kid for having weed and then let us all go. It was pretty surreal. TLDR. Drank a couple Keystones, got a 5-star wanted level. Edit. I forgot to include my favorite part of the story. So I had rode to the party with 4 of my good friends. All of us were 17 except one who was 18, but being dumbass teenagers we all smoked cigarettes. They pretty much caught us by surprise with the spotlight. I mean, seriously, who the fuck expects a police helicopter? So we didn't have time to ditch anything. There were about 20 of us there all together, so when we were all being escorted back to our cars in a big group, us 4 managed to pass our smokes off to the one guy old enough to have them. When the cops searched us, my friend ends up pulling 5 packs of cigarettes and 2 or 3 cans of chewing tobacco out of his cargo shorts and sets them on the hood of his car. The cop is not impressed and is like, "Son, you wanna tell me why you have so much tobacco?" And I shit you not, with a straight face, my friend just replies, "Because I like a variety." A few weeks after the incident, we were all out playing paintball at this field that was owned and run by a couple of local cops. They were pretty cool guys and knew us well since we were out there practically every single weekend. Well, they overheard us recounting the story to another kid and were like, "Holy shit, that was you dumbasses," and told us their side of the story, which is pretty much exactly what you guessed. The local police had recently got a new helicopter and were dying to try it out when they got a call from an old lady reporting people sneaking around looking suspicious. Apparently the neighborhood where we parked had been having a lot of break-ins lately, and so they were actually expecting to catch some burglars, not a bunch of dumbass teenagers. One of the officers who ran the field was actually working dispatch the night it happened, and I thought he was gonna die from how hard he was laughing after finding out it was us. I had a friend who lucked into a very well-paying job right out of high school. He would pay for hotel rooms to party in, as we all still lived with our parents, and it was a cool thing to do, I guess. We had a party one night when Nickelback was playing in our city, and the opening band was the Trues. We didn't really care about the show, we just happened to want to party that night. Full stop. Around 2 AM I left the room for some reason, and there was a super drunk dude carrying a bus bin full of booze. He insisted I was the guy from the Trues and followed me back to the room and got us all extra drunk. We kept saying we weren't the Trues, but he really thought we were, and at the end of the night, well, early morning, he left and said he was a huge fan and it was an honor to party with his favorite band, and he drove all the way from Ontario to see us. So somewhere in Ontario there's a guy who tells all his buddies that he partied with the Trues. Oh, and another time my buddy shattered a hotel room toilet with 2 lesbians. Oh, and another time my buddy shattered a hotel room toilet with 2 lesbians. Elaborate PLS. Well, we were a bunch of awkward dudes fresh out of high school. Sometimes the hotel parties were absurd and crazy. Other times it was a bunch of dudes sitting around laughing at our buddy for buying a hotel room for a bunch of dudes. The lesbian toilet night was one of the more intense parties. A friend of mine had found a guy we went to high school with on the bus with 2 lesbians. They were the last people to arrive to the already overcrowded hotel room and there wasn't much space left. The lesbians hung out in the bathroom and the guy who bought the room, let's call him Jamie, had to rock a piss. They said something to him that involved him pissing in there while they watched. He went for it because beer and nobody else went in there for about 20 minutes. After 20 or so the three of them stumble out laughing and Jamie told me to go look. Sure enough the whole damn toilet was shattered. No blood or anything but that thing was wrecked. He never explained how it happened but I'm sure it was a good time. I think we got booted from the hotel at like 1,230 that night, which was a record. The host of the party decided to get into his unregistered car, without license plates, without insurance, and without a license and as drunk as the day is long. He drove the wrong way through a traffic circle, roundabout, and ran into a road sign. His best friend then screamed his name across the road, a neighbor called the cops, told them his name, etc. He was taken in and blood tested with 2.2 mil. He was let go but he can't apply for a license until 2018. HS. My house party. Guy asks me if he can shoot some other kid and shows me a .45. I tell him not on my property and not at my party. He apparently respected that. Later he gets drunk and cuts his own stomach open, about 1 inch deep, 8 inches wide. You can clearly see each layer of skin and fat. He then goes around talking with it like it's Jim Carrey's rectum. We eventually convince him much later to go to the hospital, as he previously refused because he was afraid they were going to commit him to the psych ward, but by then they told him it had been too long and they could only debride and dress it. He has a massive scar there now, although he's much more sane and stable these days. Went to a house party freshman year of high school in Europe. It was this rich girl's apartment in a pretty high building, 10-12 stories. She lived on the top floor of this building and after getting drunk and a little high, Towily style, I started feeling pretty confident in myself. She had a small balcony and it was next to her neighbor's balcony which was about a 2-meter gap of nothing all the way down in between. In my drunken stupor I decided that moment would be the first time I said hold my beer. I stood up on the handrail and jumped across to the other balcony and back completely drunk. The second jump back really put how high up I was into perspective when I looked down at the middle of the jump. Landed safely but god that could have ended poorly. I've got a few from just one night. My best friend, our acid dealer, was having a huge house party. Probably 60-70 of us there, nearly everyone tripping balls. Long story short the cops have us all lined up against a wall chewing us and searching our pockets. Cop finds a little balloon full of white powder on my buddy next to me. What's this? Huh, you gonna tell me what IT is? Screaming spitting in the cop's face. IT's foul you fucking pig. I was trying so hard not to laugh I was shaking. It was flour. We were stuffing it in balloons and playing with it. Almost 25 years later and we're still laughing about it. Get the crime lab results back on that balloon. Yes sir. They said they made gravy with it. Isn't it still a felony if you have powder in a bag balloon? I think I saw that on an episode of Cops once. Something about selling fake drugs is the same punishment as selling real drugs. Yep, the episode of the crack dealer selling macadamia nuts. The whole time he was getting arrested he was laughing saying man they just nuts. He was not lying. The foreign exchange student from Sweden took too much MDMA and ended up dancing in the living room with his pants and briefs pulled down. There he was, in the living room of a massive party, with his tiny little dick swaying back and forth. He was kicked out, and kept coming back dancing with his pants at his ankles. He came back the next day to apologize. It was his first week being a foreign exchange student at our school. Yes, a meme was made. The image is literally ingrained into my psyche. His penis was so small. So anyway, one time I went down to visit my friends in Cork. 2 of them were twins and were throwing an 18th. It was a great night and everyone got very drunk. Around 4 everyone started to look for a place to sleep. Unfortunately one of the rooms containing 3 beds and a few sleeping bags had been occupied by one of the twins and his girlfriend. So 14 of us had to all pile into one double bed. I was sleeping in between one of the twins and another friend of mine. He was talking non-stop with some girl, but I didn't mind because I had somewhere to sleep. About 3:30 I'm talking to my friend when his face suddenly turns white. From behind me I hear a slow creaking sound. It slowly gets louder. I was in shock. After a minute he stops and I hear a sigh. I hold up my hand and he high-fives me. And that is how my friend lost his virginity. TL. Dr. Friend lost virginity in bed with 14 people. Followed by high five.